In the murky depths of an ancient swamp, where mist clings to twisted roots like ghostly fingers, something massive stirs beneath the black water. The silence is deceptive. A predator older than nightmares waits with the patience of stone. Tonight, 3 hunters will discover that in these primordial waters, they are not the apex predators they believe themselves to be. What lurks beneath will challenge everything they know about survival, fear, and death itself. The world was younger then, carved by ice and shaped by violence. Vast wetlands stretched across what would one day become the heart of Africa, where ancient rivers wound through endless marshes under skies that had never known the smoke of civilization. This was a realm where survival meant understanding that death could emerge from any shadow, any ripple in the water, any moment of carelessness. The mist hung heavy over the black waters as dawn struggled to penetrate the canopy of prehistoric trees. Towering cypress and ancient willows created a cathedral of shadows, their gnarled roots disappearing into waters so dark they seemed to swallow light itself. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of decay, a primordial perfume that spoke of life and death in eternal cycle. Strange calls echoed through the wetlands, the voices of creatures that had ruled this domain since time immemorial. 3 figures moved silently through this aquatic maze, their primitive forms barely distinguishable from the shadows they navigated. Kyle, the eldest, bore the scars of countless hunts across his weathered face and muscular frame. His eyes, sharp as obsidian, constantly scanned the tree line and water's edge with the wariness of one who had survived too many encounters with death. A necklace of predator teeth hung around his neck, each one a trophy from battles that had tested his very soul. Behind him, his younger brother Thane moved with the fluid grace of a born hunter, his spear held ready, muscles coiled like a predator's. The third member of their hunting party was Nara, Kyle's daughter, whose keen senses had already proven invaluable in tracking their quarry through this treacherous landscape. They had been following the massive tracks for 3 days now, prints larger than any they had ever seen, pressed deep into the muddy banks of the swamp's countless waterways. The creature they pursued was no ordinary prey. The elders spoke in hushed tones of the old ones, ancient beasts that had ruled these waters since time immemorial. Most dismissed such tales as the fevered imaginings of frightened minds, but the evidence before them suggested otherwise. The very earth seemed to remember the passage of something immense and terrible. The tracks told a story of something immense and powerful, something that moved through water and land with equal ease. Each print was nearly the length of a man's arm, with claw marks that gouged deep furrows in the hardest mud. Whatever had made these marks was a predator of unimaginable size and strength. The spacing between the prints suggested a creature that could cover vast distances with each stride, a living engine of destruction that had perfected the art of killing over millions of years. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the swamp, the very air seemed to grow heavier, more oppressive. The normal sounds of the wetlands, the calls of prehistoric birds, the splash of fish, the rustle of small creatures in the reeds, gradually faded to an unnatural silence. It was as if the entire ecosystem held its breath, waiting for something terrible to unfold. Even the insects had ceased their constant buzzing, creating a void of sound that pressed against their eardrums like a physical weight. Kyle raised his hand, bringing the small hunting party to an immediate halt. His nostrils flared as he tested the air, detecting something that made his blood run cold. The scent was ancient and alien, a mixture of rotting vegetation, stagnant water, and something else, something that spoke to the deepest, most primitive parts of his brain. It was the smell of a predator so old and powerful that it had become legend, a creature that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. The water ahead of them was perfectly still, its black surface reflecting the grey sky like a mirror of obsidian. But Kale's experienced eyes caught what others might miss, the subtle displacement of water near a fallen log, the way the reeds bent slightly against the current, the almost imperceptible ripples that suggested something massive moving just beneath the surface. The very stillness was wrong, unnatural, like the calm before a storm of unimaginable violence. Thane felt it too, the weight of unseen eyes upon them. His grip tightened on his spear as he scanned the murky depths, every instinct screaming that they were no longer the hunters, but the hunted. The roles had reversed with a subtlety that spoke to the intelligence of whatever stalked them through these ancient waters. His heart hammered against his ribs as he realized they had walked into a trap as old as time itself. Nara's sharp intake of breath drew their attention to the water's edge, where something had disturbed the mud. Fresh tracks, still filling with seepage, marked the passage of their quarry. But these weren't the tracks of a creature moving away from them. They were the tracks of something that had been watching, waiting, and was now positioning itself for an attack. The prints led directly into the deepest part of the channel, where the black water seemed to descend into an abyss. The realization hit them with the force of a physical blow. They had walked into a trap as old as time itself, orchestrated by a predator whose intelligence was matched only by its patience. The creature had been leading them deeper into its domain, away from solid ground and escape routes, into the heart of its watery kingdom where it held every advantage. Every step they had taken had been anticipated, every move calculated by a mind that had perfected the art of ambush over eons of evolution. A low rumble echoed through the swamp, so deep and primal that it seemed to emanate from the earth itself. It was a sound that predated human memory, a vocalization that spoke of power beyond comprehension. The water began to churn, and for the first time, they caught a glimpse of what they faced. Massive bubbles rose to the surface, followed by the emergence of something that defied every nightmare the human mind could conjure. The surface of the black water exploded in an eruption of prehistoric fury. What emerged defied every nightmare the human mind could conjure. A crocodilian behemoth from the dawn of time, its massive form dwarfing anything that walked the earth in their era. This was Deinosuchus, the terror crocodile, a creature that had ruled these waters for millions of years and saw the arrival of humans as nothing more than the introduction of new prey. Its hide was scarred by countless battles, each mark a testament to its dominance over this primordial realm. The beast's head alone was larger than their entire canoe, armed with teeth the size of daggers and jaws powerful enough to crush the bones of the mightiest predators. Its eyes, cold and calculating, fixed upon the three hunters with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. This was no mindless beast. This was an apex predator that had perfected the art of killing over eons of evolution. Ancient scars crisscrossed its armored hide, evidence of battles with creatures that had long since vanished from the earth. Kale's warrior instincts kicked in immediately. "Move!" he roared, his voice cutting through the primordial silence like a blade. The three hunters scattered, their survival depending on speed and cunning rather than strength. Against such a creature, their primitive weapons were little more than toothpicks, but their human intelligence and agility were their only hope. The beast's massive form displaced tons of water as it fully emerged, creating waves that threatened to wash them into its waiting jaws. The monster's massive tail swept through the water with devastating force, creating waves that threatened to capsize their small vessel. Thane leaped to solid ground just as the creature's jaws snapped shut where he had been standing moments before. The sound of those massive teeth coming together was like the crack of thunder, a percussion that seemed to shake the very foundations of the swamp. Splinters of wood flew through the air as their boat was reduced to kindling in an instant. Nara found herself separated from the others, trapped on a small island of solid ground surrounded by the churning waters where the beast now ruled supreme. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she watched the creature's massive form glide through the water with a grace that belied its enormous size. Every movement was calculated, efficient, deadly. The creature's eyes never left her, studying her with the patience of a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. The crocodile's hunting strategy became terrifyingly clear. It wasn't simply attacking, it was herding them, using its massive presence to drive them toward deeper water where its advantages would be absolute. The creature had learned over countless millennia that panic made prey predictable, and it was using that knowledge with surgical precision. Each movement was designed to cut off escape routes, to funnel them toward the killing ground of its choosing. Kyle tried to reach his daughter, but the beast anticipated his movement, cutting him off with a display of speed that seemed impossible for something so massive. The water erupted again as the creature launched itself partially onto the muddy bank, its claws gouging deep furrows in the earth as it pursued its prey with relentless determination. Ancient mud flew through the air as the monster's weight compressed the earth beneath its massive form. Thane attempted to distract the monster, hurling his spear with all his strength. The weapon struck the creature's armored hide and bounced off harmlessly, the ancient scales having evolved to deflect far more dangerous attacks than anything these primitive humans could muster. The beast's attention turned to him, and he found himself staring into eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. Those cold, reptilian orbs held a malevolent intelligence that chilled him to his very core. The hunt became a deadly game of cat and mouse, with the humans using every trick their ancestors had learned in their struggle for survival. They moved from tree to tree, using the twisted roots and fallen logs as bridges over the treacherous waters. But the creature was patient, following their every move with the inexorable persistence of death itself. Its massive form moved through the water with barely a ripple, a testament to millions of years of evolutionary perfection. As the day wore on, exhaustion began to take its toll on the hunters. Their movements became slower, their decisions less sharp. The beast, however, showed no signs of fatigue. It had been playing this game for far longer than humans had existed, and it knew that time was its greatest ally. The creature's breathing remained steady and controlled, while the humans gasped for air in the humid atmosphere. The final confrontation came as the sun began to set, painting the swamp in shades of blood and shadow. Nara found herself cornered on a narrow spit of land, with the creature blocking her only escape route. Its massive form rose from the water like a living mountain, water cascading from its prehistoric hide as it prepared to claim its prize. The beast's jaws opened slowly, revealing rows of teeth that had torn apart creatures beyond imagination. Kyle and Thane launched a desperate coordinated attack, using firebrands to try and drive the beast back. The flames reflected off the creature's eyes, creating an image of pure primordial terror. But the monster had faced fire before. It was older than humanity's mastery of flame, and it would not be deterred by such primitive tactics. The creature's hide bore scorch marks from ancient encounters, proof of its resilience against such weapons. The beast's jaws opened wide, revealing a maw that seemed to lead directly to the underworld. Time slowed to a crawl as death approached on massive, clawed feet. But in that moment of ultimate terror, human ingenuity sparked one final gambit. Using a combination of leverage and timing that their ancestors had perfected through generations of desperate survival, the hunters managed to topple a massive dead tree directly into the creature's path. The ancient wood crashed down with tremendous force, momentarily stunning the beast and creating a bridge to safety. The three hunters fled through the darkening swamp, their hearts pounding with the rhythm of pure survival. Behind them, the enraged roars of the thwarted predator echoed through the wetlands, a sound that would haunt their dreams for the rest of their lives. They had survived, but at a cost. They had learned that in this ancient world, humans were not the masters they believed themselves to be. There were older powers, darker forces that ruled domains where human courage and cunning meant nothing. The swamp kept its secrets, and the monster returned to its watery kingdom, patient as stone, waiting for the next group of prey to venture into its primordial realm.